The rain had been falling for hours, soaking the cracked pavement outside the small chapel at the edge of town. Inside, the room was filled with whispers, the kind that cling to grief like fog. A closed casket sat beneath pale lilies, the scent heavy and sweet. She was a kind woman, someone murmured. Didn't deserve to go like that. In the very back row, a woman in a black coat sat still, her hands trembling around a folded funeral program. The name printed on it made her heart pound. Margaret Hole. Her name. Her funeral. Her eyes darted across the room, her sister weeping in the front row. Her husband's stoic face. Her children dressed in black. They really believe I'm dead. She couldn't breathe. Every instinct screamed to run, to shout, to tell them she was alive, but she didn't. She stayed hidden, watching as her own life was buried without her, because this was the plan. Months ago, she'd signed the papers, arranged the car accident, vanished into the system. But seeing them now, seeing the ache she'd caused, that wasn't part of the plan. The pastor's voice echoed. We laid to rest Margaret Hale, a devoted mother, a loving wife, and a woman of grace. Her husband's eyes were hollow. Her sister reached for his hand. Margaret bit her lip until she tasted blood. They'll move on. She told herself. They have to. But when the service ended, and everyone left except him, her husband, she couldn't look away. He approached the casket, placed his hand on it, and whispered something that made her freeze. You were never supposed to find out. Her pulse roared in her ears. Find out? About what? Then he did something even worse. He smiled. A small, private smile meant for no one but himself. And at that moment, Margaret knew she hadn't escaped him. She had escaped something much darker. Margaret didn't sleep that night. The image of her husband's smirk replayed again and again in her mind like a broken film reel. She sat in the dim light of a motel room miles away. Her new ID card, Claire Barnes, resting on the table beside a half-empty cup of coffee. Her plan had been simple: fake her death, disappear, and start over. But that smile changed everything. What had he meant? You were never supposed to find out. Find out what? She pulled out her phone, an unregistered burner she used only for emergencies. Her fingers hesitated over the contacts list before she typed a single name. Eleanor her sister. She deleted it immediately. Calling was impossible. She couldn't risk being traced. Instead, she opened her old email account, the one she swore she'd never check again. Dozens of unread messages blinked back at her: condolences, legal updates, messages from friends, and one from an unknown address sent 2 days before the crash. Subject line: you're in danger. He knows. Her breath caught. She clicked it open. If you get this, don't trust anyone, especially him. What he did, it's not what you think. Go to the house on Brookridge Lane. The answers are there. There was no signature. Margaret's heart hammered in her chest. Brookridge Lane, that was where her husband had grown up, where he said his parents had died years ago. But what if that wasn't true? She grabbed her coat and the car keys. The rain had stopped, but the air felt electric, heavy with something she couldn't name. As she drove through the night, one thought consumed her. Maybe I didn't fake my death to escape him. Maybe I faked it to survive him. The road to Brookridge Lane twisted through the woods like a scar. Margaret's headlights cut through the fog, illuminating old mailboxes and forgotten driveways. When she finally reached the address, her stomach turned. The house looked abandoned, shutters hanging loose, weeds curling over the porch, one window boarded up, yet the front door was ajar. She hesitated. Every instinct screamed turn back but curiosity had teeth and it had already bitten deep. She pushed the door open. The smell hit her first: old wood, mildew, and something faintly metallic. Dust floated in the beam of her flashlight as she stepped inside. On the living room wall, faded photos still hung: a man, a woman, and a boy. Her husband as a child. Except the woman wasn't the mother he'd described. Margaret moved closer. The woman in the photo wore a silver locket, one she recognized instantly. Asterisk, her husband's locket. Asterisk, the same one he never took off. Her pulse quickened. She searched the drawers, the cupboards, anything that could explain what she was seeing. In a cracked dresser, she found a stack of letters tied with twine. The paper was yellowed, the ink faded. Each was signed with the same name, asterisk Eliza Haley. Asterisk, her own maiden name. No, she whispered, reading the first line. Asterisk, to my son, in case you ever find this. Forgive me for what I did to your father. Asterisk. The world tilted. Her husband's mother was her great-aunt. That meant they were related. By blood. The crash, the lies, the fear, they weren't random. Her whole marriage had been built on a secret older than either of them. Suddenly, the floor creaked behind her. She turned sharply, flashlight trembling, and saw a shadow move down the hall. Someone else was there? Margaret froze, the flashlight trembling in her grip as the shadow moved again, slow, deliberate, like it wanted her to hear. Who's there? Her voice cracked in the silence. No answer. She took a step forward, every instinct screaming to run, but her need to know forcing her onward. The hallway was narrow, lined with peeling wallpaper and photographs that seemed to watch her. When she reached the end, a door stood half open. She pushed it slowly, the hinges groaning, and nearly screamed. A man sat in a chair facing the window, motionless. His face was half hidden in the moonlight, but she recognized the outline instantly. Her husband. David? She whispered. He didn't move. She inched closer. How did you know I'd come here? Still nothing. She touched his shoulder, and he toppled sideways. The chair crashed to the floor, revealing an old tape recorder clutched in his stiff hand. Her heart pounded as she pressed play. Asterisk, if you're hearing this. It means I was right, asterisk, his voice said, calm but cold. Asterisk, you never could leave things buried, could you, Margaret? You had to know what kind of family you came from. What kind of blood you carry. Asterisk. She backed away, bile rising in her throat. Asterisk, you thought you faked your death to escape me. But you were part of the plan all along. And if you found this house, they know where you are. Asterisk. The tape clicked off. The silence afterward was deafening. Then, somewhere outside, an engine started. Headlights swept across the wall through the window. Margaret dropped the recorder, her breath shaking. Asterisk, they know where you are. Asterisk. She grabbed the letters, stuffed them into her coat, and ran for the back door. But a voice stopped her. You shouldn't have come back, Margaret. It wasn't David's voice. It was deeper. Older. Margaret turned toward the voice, her flashlight shaking so violently the beam splintered across the walls. From the shadows stepped an older man, his hair white, his face deeply lined. But his eyes, those eyes, mirrored her husband's. You're supposed to be dead, she whispered. The man smiled faintly. That's what David wanted you to think. Her stomach dropped. You're his father. And yours, he said quietly. The words hit her like a blow. That's not possible, isn't it? He stepped closer, the floorboards creaking. Eliza Haley was my wife. I thought she died in childbirth, but she didn't. She took the baby and ran to protect him. You. The room spun. No, Margaret said, backing away. That means you married your half-brother, he finished for her. Neither of you were supposed to know. The experiment was supposed to end before you did. Experiment? She choked out. What are you talking about? His expression hardened. Our bloodline. The Hales were chosen long before you were born. Your mother and I were part of a study. They wanted to see how far memory, instinct, and connection could go. It wasn't love that drew you and David together, Margaret. It was design. Her chest constricted. You're lying. Am I? He reached into his coat and held up a photograph. 2 infants, swaddled in the same hospital blanket. On the back, written in her mother's handwriting, asterisk subject A and subject B, asterisk. The air vanished from her lungs. I tried to stop it, the old man said softly. But once they knew you'd found out, they sent him after you. Who? she asked, barely able to speak. The ones who made you. And before she could react, glass shattered, a window exploding inward, and the house was suddenly flooded with white light. Voices shouted. Footsteps thundered. Margaret ran. Margaret stumbled through the back door, the cold night slicing her lungs as she ran into the woods. The voices behind her grew louder, commands, boots crushing branches. Beams of flashlights cutting through the trees. "Stop her! She's the last one left," someone yelled. The words made her blood run cold. The last one left? She didn't stop to think. She just ran. Her legs burned, her breath came in ragged gasps, and still she pushed forward until she saw the faint glow of an old shed ahead. She darted inside, slamming the door behind her. It smelled of dust and oil, but in the dim light, she noticed something on the wall. Papers, photographs, charts, her face, David's face, and others she didn't recognize. The same logo was stamped on each page. *Halley Foundation, Human Continuity Division. *. Her hand shook as she flipped through a folder. Notes in dense handwriting covered each page. Subject A, displays high empathy response. Subject B, increased aggression. Outcome, failed union, monitor offspring. She froze. Offspring? She whispered, Emily. And her world shattered. Their daughter wasn't theirs by chance either. She was part of it. A continuation. The door creaked behind her. Margaret turned slowly, heart pounding. The old man stood there, pale and trembling. "You were never supposed to find this," he said. "They'll come for her next." Margaret's fear ignited into something else. Rage. "Over my dead body." He gave a sad nod. "That's what I'm afraid of." Sirens echoed in the distance, drawing closer. Margaret grabbed a handful of the documents and stuffed them into her coat. "Then help me stop them," she said. The old man hesitated, then finally whispered, "There's a place where it all began. If you go there, you'll find the truth. But once you do, you can't go back." Margaret didn't care anymore. She had lost too much already. "Then that's where I'm going," and before he could stop her, she disappeared into the trees, toward the place where everything began. Dawn was breaking when Margaret reached the outskirts of Hale Point, a place she hadn't seen in over 20 years. The town was eerily still, almost abandoned, its streets overgrown and houses collapsed under time's weight. Yet in the distance, the old research facility still stood, gray and cold like a wound that never healed. She tightened her coat and stepped forward, her breath visible in the morning chill. Every step echoed with memories she wished she could forget. She pushed open the rusted gate, its hinges screaming as if warning her to turn back. Inside, the air smelled of dust, chemicals, and decay. Broken glass crunched beneath her boots. Then a voice. "I knew you'd come back." Margaret froze. A man emerged from the shadows, tall, composed, his face older but unmistakable. "Dr. Hale," she whispered, the name tasting like poison. He smiled faintly. "You remember me? Good. That means the conditioning didn't erase everything." "Conditioning?" Her voice cracked. "You did this to us." Hale nodded slowly, almost proudly. "You were our success story, the first to survive empathy, augmentation without cognitive collapse." Margaret's stomach twisted. "You turned me into an experiment." "No," Hale said, stepping closer. "Into an evolution. But your husband, he wasn't strong enough. You saw what happened. Her knees weakened as..." Flashes of David's final moments rushed back, the rage, the confusion, the fire. "You destroyed him," she whispered. "You destroyed all of us." Hale tilted his head. "And yet, you're here. Which means you want answers more than revenge." Margaret's voice was ice. "I want both." For a moment they stood in silence, two survivors of something unnatural. Then Hale spoke again, softer. "Your daughter has what neither of you could control. If she's alive, she's the key to finishing what we started." Margaret's heart dropped. "Where is she?" Hallie smiled. Closer than you think. From behind the lab, doors came, the faint sound of footsteps, light, careful, familiar. Margaret turned, her breath catching. Emily? The door opened, and there she was, grown, alive, and not quite the same. Emily stood in the doorway, her eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. Not unnaturally, but with a focus too sharp, too still. Margaret's breath caught. Emily. It's me, she whispered, stepping forward. The girl didn't move. Hale's voice cut through the silence, calm and cruel. She recognizes you, Margaret, but she's been enhanced. Her empathy threshold exceeds anything we imagined. Margaret turned to him, rage simmering. You used her. Just like you used me, we helped her, he said coldly. She can feel the pain of the world and survive it. At what cost? Margaret demanded. Emily's gaze shifted between them, confusion flickering in her expression. Mom? The word broke Margaret's heart. She ran to her daughter, but Emily flinched back as if touched by fire. It hurts when you get too close, Emily said softly, clutching her head. I can feel everything you feel. Hallie smiled, satisfied. She's evolving, Margaret. You could help her if you'd only remember your training. Do you think I want this? She hissed. To feel every drop of pain she carries? Hale's eyes darkened. You already do. That's why you came back, Margaret froze. He was right. She hadn't just come for revenge. She'd come because something deep inside her had called her back. A pull she couldn't resist. Emily stepped forward, trembling. He said you left because you were scared of me. Tears burned in Margaret's eyes. No, I left to keep you safe. Hale's tone turned sharp. Safe? She's the only one who can fix what's been broken. You mean finish your experiment? It's not an experiment anymore, Hal said, his voice lowering. It's survival. Before Margaret could respond, a low hum filled the room. The lights flickered. Machines came alive and the facility began to shake. Emily screamed, covering her ears. Hale's expression turned to panic. She's sinking. Margaret, stop her before she burns the whole grid. Margaret reached for her daughter, their hands nearly touching. The moment their skin met, a burst of energy rippled through the air, light, sound, memory, all crashing together. Margaret's mind flooded with images. Emily in a lab, screaming, Hale watching, her husband collapsing. Then silence. When the light finally faded, everything was still. Margaret lay on the cold floor, gasping for air. Her body ached, her vision blurred, but the hum of the machines was gone. Smoke hung in the air, and Hale was nowhere to be seen. Emily, she croaked, her voice trembling. She forced herself upright, searching the room. The glass panels were shattered, sparks jumping from broken wires. Then, from the center of the chaos, she saw her daughter, kneeling. Silent, eyes glowing faintly blue. Mom? Emily whispered. Her voice was different now, calmer, older, full of something Margaret couldn't name. I didn't mean to hurt you. Margaret stumbled closer. You didn't. You saved us. No, Emily said, shaking her head. I saw what he did. What you did, the pain. It's all still inside me. Margaret's chest tightened. Then let me carry it. Emily's gaze locked with hers. That's not how it works. I'm not just feeling your pain anymore. I'm feeling asterisk, everyone's asterisk. Margaret reached out, her hand trembling. Then let me help you control it. Emily hesitated, tears forming in her glowing eyes. He said I was made to fix what's broken. But what if it's not supposed to be fixed? Margaret froze. What do you mean? All this pain, Emily said softly. It's what makes people real. If I take it away, what's left of them? Her words cut through the silence like a knife. Margaret realized then that her daughter wasn't a weapon. She was a mirror, a reflection of every secret, every sin, every ounce of love and grief humanity tried to bury. Margaret knelt beside her, pulling her close despite the static that burned her skin. "Then don't take it away," she whispered. "Just help us live with it for a moment." The hum returned, but softer, almost like a heartbeat. The lights steadied, Emily's glow dimmed. "You're not afraid of me anymore," she said quietly. "I never was," Margaret replied. "I was afraid of losing you in the corner." A door creaked open, daylight spilling through the smoke. They stood together, mother and daughter, stepping into a world that finally felt quiet again. Behind them, the ruined lab pulsed once more, faintly alive, as if keeping watch. The sun was rising when they reached the surface. The world above felt eerily still, like it had been holding its breath, waiting for them. Margaret and Emily walked through the fog-drenched field behind the facility. Birds began to stir, their faint calls breaking the silence. Emily stopped, watching the horizon. "It's quiet," she said. "Too quiet, it's peace," Margaret replied softly. "You've never heard it before," Emily tilted her head, eyes filled with wonder and sadness. "Is this what it's supposed to feel like?" "Yes," Margaret whispered. "Just being." They sat together on an old concrete slab, the remnants of what once was a watchtower. Margaret's hands were scraped and trembling, but she held Emily's tight. "You don't have to fix the world, sweetheart," she said. "You just have to live in it." Emily's eyes dimmed to their natural color, the faint blue glow finally gone. "He said I wasn't meant to live like others. That I'd always be different." Margaret smiled through tears. "Different doesn't mean broken." Emily nodded, tears streaking her face. "What about you? Will you stay with me this time?" Margaret's voice cracked. "I'm not going anywhere." For the first time in years, the ache in her chest began to fade. No more running, no more hiding. Just truth. Raw, unfiltered, human. Emily leaned her head on her mother's shoulder. "Do you think people will ever understand what happened?" "Maybe," Margaret said. "Or maybe it's better they don't. Some truths aren't meant to be explained, only felt." A soft wind passed through the field, carrying the faint scent of smoke and rain. In the distance, the facility collapsed in on itself with a deep, echoing groan. The ground trembled, then stilled again. Emily whispered, "Is it over?" Margaret looked up at the brightening sky. "No," she said, "it's just beginning." They stood, hand in hand, walking toward the edge of the forest, leaving behind the ghosts of what they'd survived. Somewhere behind them, deep within the ruins, a flicker of blue light pulsed once, and went dark. If this story touched you, take a moment before you scroll away. Sometimes, the people we think are broken are just surviving in ways we'll never understand. If you felt something tonight, hit that like button. It helps more than you know. And if you want to hear more stories like this, full of truth, pain, and the kind of love that never really fades, make sure you subscribe and turn on the bell, because the next story might just be the one you needed to hear. Thank you for watching, and remember, empathy changes everything.